Have you ever wondered what it really means when an engine oil says 0W20, 5W30, 10W40, or 20W50? Many people think that the thicker the oil, the better it protects the engine, but that is not always true. Using the wrong viscosity can cause premature wear, excessive fuel consumption, problems with the variable valve timing system, poor lubrication during cold starts, and even internal engine damage. Today, I'm going to explain what each number on the oil means, what type of oil you should use depending on the climate, and when it may be recommended to change viscosity depending on the engine's mileage. First, let's start with the basics. When we see an oil like 5W30, there are two important pieces of information. The first number, in this case 5W, indicates how the oil flows when the engine is cold. The letter W stands for winter. It does not mean weight. It refers to the oil's behavior at low temperatures. The lower the number before the W, the easier the oil flows during a cold start. For example, a 0W oil flows better in cold temperatures than a 5W, and a 5W flows better than a 10W. This is very important because most engine wear happens during the first few seconds after startup when the oil has not fully reached all internal engine components yet. Now, the second number, such as 20, 30, 40, or 50, indicates the oil's viscosity when the engine is already operating at normal temperature. The higher that number is, the thicker the oil remains when hot. For example, 0W20 is an oil that flows very well in cold temperatures and is also light when hot. It is commonly used in modern engines because it helps reduce friction, improve fuel economy, and lubricate internal components quickly. A 5W30 oil is very common because it offers a good balance between protection, cold start performance, and hot engine operation. A 10W40 or 20W50 oil is thicker, and it is usually used more often in older engines, worn engines, engines that consume oil, or engines that operate in very hot environments, as long as the manufacturer allows it. Now, let's get to the important part. What oil should you use depending on the environment? If you live in a cold place where temperatures drop very low, it is better to use oils with a low number before the W, such as 0W20, 0W30, 5W20, or 5W30, depending on what the manufacturer recommends. These oils help the engine start with less effort and allow lubrication to reach internal parts faster. If you live in a mild climate where it is not extremely cold or extremely hot, a 5W30 or 5W20 usually works very well in many modern engines. But you should always check the oil cap or the owner's manual, because not all engines are designed for the same viscosity. If you live in a very hot climate, or if the vehicle works for many hours, carries heavy loads, climbs hills, spends a lot of time in heavy traffic, or is used for work, it may be better to use an oil that maintains a strong lubricating film when hot, such as 5W30, 10W30, 10W40, or even 15W40, depending on the engine. But be careful. This does not mean you should use thick oil just because the weather is hot. If the engine is designed for 0W20, using 20W50 can affect lubrication, fuel economy, the VVT system, variable timing actuators, and the actual oil pressure in small oil passages. Now let's talk about mileage. In a new engine or engine with low mileage, the best option is to use the viscosity recommended by the manufacturer. Modern engines have tighter internal tolerances, smaller oil passages, and systems controlled by oil pressure. That is why many of them use 0W20, 5W20, or 5W30. In engines with medium mileage, for example over 100,000 kilometers, if the engine does not consume oil, does not smoke, does not make noise, and maintains good oil pressure, there is no need to switch to a thicker oil. You can continue using the original viscosity. In high-mileage engines, for example over 150,000 or 200,000 kilometers, if the engine starts consuming oil, has small leaks, lower compression, or becomes a little noisier when hot, you may consider using a high-mileage oil or a slightly thicker viscosity, but without going too far. For example, if the engine used 5W20, sometimes you can switch to 5W30 if the manufacturer allows it. If it used 5W30, you may consider 10W30 or 10W40 in hot climates and worn engines, but it is not recommended to jump directly to a very thick oil without a proper diagnosis. It is also important to know that viscosity is not the only thing that matters. You also need to check the oil specification, API, ILSAC, ACEA, or the specific manufacturer standard. Two oils can both say 5W30, but that does not necessarily mean they are suitable for the same engine. For example, a modern gasoline engine, a diesel engine, a turbocharged engine, or a vehicle with a particulate filter may require oils with different specifications. So, the correct rule is this. First, check the viscosity recommended by the manufacturer. Second, consider the climate where the vehicle operates. Third, consider the mileage and the real condition of the engine. And fourth, use an oil that meets the correct specification, not just the viscosity number. Remember, thicker oil does not always mean better protection. The best oil is the one that reaches the engine quickly during cold starts, maintains a strong lubricating film when hot, and meets the specification required by that engine. If this video helped you understand what oil your engine should use, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and let me know in the comments what oil your vehicle uses and how many kilometers it has. See you in the next video.